Hey everyone. So today we are going to be learning about a new topic, linear relationships. Now, linear relationships are basically the following. Okay. Linear is basically means we're dealing with lines. Okay. So straight lines, not wonkated lines or anything like that. Straight lines. So our lines can be either going up, either going down, or going across, or going straight up. Okay, so those are the type of lines that we'll be looking at. Another thing is relationships. Relationships, as we know as a definition, is I have a relationship with a friend. You have a relationship with your family, okay, and people that you know. So relationship have two things. Event number one is in relationship with event number two. That is math. So math's definition of relationships is with things. So for example, how long? So the time that I ran. Okay. So let's say 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Okay, that I ran for. And the distance. So the time, so 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, is in relationship with the distance that I ran. So the longer I run for, the further I run. Okay, that's an example of a relationship in maths. All right, lesson number one, number patterns and building patterns. Okay, so this one right here should be somewhat simple. We're just going to write it in a math form. Okay, so let's go to our first pattern. 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, what is the pattern? Well, to check the pattern is the following. We'll go from 1, the first starting number, and do an arrow to the second number. All right, 1 to go to 3. How do I do that? Right? If I go 1 plus 2, that equals me to 3. A lot of this is very guess and check. Okay. So if I do 1 plus 2 gives me 3, let me double check with 3 going to 5. If I do 3 plus 2, does that give me 5? Yeah. Okay. So I've double checked that. Let's triple check it just to make sure it's correct. 5 plus 2, does that give me 7? Yes. So that means my pattern is going to be adding 2. So what I'm going to do now is the following. For question AI, I'm going to describe the pattern because it says describe how the pattern is being formed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down starting with the first number, which is number 1. Add 2 to the previous number. And that's my description of the pattern. The second part to part A is write down the next 3 numbers in the pattern. Okay, so I don't have to add 2 to the previous number. The previous number is 7, right? So I'm going to start off with 7, and I'm going to add 2. 7 plus 2 gives me 9. Then now I'm going to start off with 9. Okay, 9 plus 2 equals me to 11. The answer to that, 11, I'm going to add 2 to it. Because I've got the first number, the second number, I need to know the third number. 11 plus 2 gives me 13. Okay, so therefore the next 3 numbers is going to be in this order: 9, 11, and 13. Okay. All right, let us continue on. Question B, 1, 3, 9, 27. If you can't see, right, particularly in this part here, it's a big jump. Even here, this is a big jump. Okay. So let's see what we can do. So I'm going from 1 to 3. Let's try what we used in the previous pattern, right? Add 2. 1 plus 2 gives me 3. Let's double check. Does 3 plus 2 give me 9? 3 plus 2, that gives me 5. Okay, so that means my pattern at the moment is not adding 2. Okay. When you're figuring out patterns, you can use only the following operation. Okay. You can only use multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction. It can be a combination of both, okay? But it has to be one of those 4 operations. Now, you can see that it's increasing, okay, from 1, 3, 9, 27. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, if it's not addition, what other operation? Multiplication, right? Multiplication is where I increase things. So I'm going to multiply 1 by what to give me 3. 1 times 3 gives me 3. Let's double check. Does 3 times 3 give me 9? Yeah, it does. Now let's try 9 times 3. Does that give me 20? Yeah, it does, right? So that means my pattern is going to be multiplying 3. Okay, so let's write it down and describe our pattern. I'm going to write down starting with the number 1. This is my first number. Multiply 3 to the previous number. Okay, now let's do the writing down the next 3 numbers. My last number is 27. All right, let's start off with 27. 27, and I have to multiply this by 3. Put this into your calculator, and you should have 81. I'm going to use 81 now. So that's my first number, 81. And I'm going to do 81 times 3. That gives me 243 in the calculator. And I'm going to use 243 times it by 3. You can see it's getting really, really big. And that should give me 729. Yes. So these are my next 3 numbers: 81, 243, 729. Okay. Next part, example number 2. Okay. Example number 2, I think you guys see it already. Okay. In our diagnostic test, we did something similar. So the number of squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I need to have the number of squares in relationship with number of matches. So super easy. We're just going to count the matches. In the first square, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 matches. I'm going to write down 4. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For the second one, and just count it. That's all we're doing. Yeah. I think it's very self-explanatory. And I'm just going to write down the answers here. Now, what I would like to do is, I'm talking about relationships, the number of squares and the number of matches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this down. Okay. Square number 1 has how many matches? 4 matches. Okay. I'm just going to say 4 matches or 4 matchsticks. The second one has 8 matches. The third, I'm just going to write it down like this because it makes it easier for me to look at in terms of relationships. 12 matches and 4 squares has 16. Okay. Let's see. What's the relationship between both, right? first things first is to find the pattern. So going from 4 to 8 to 12 to 16, that is going up by multiplying 4. Okay, if you can't see it, it's your 4 times tables. So what I'm going to do is the following. If the pattern is at multiplying 4 each time, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down the pattern 4. What I have to do with that 4 is I need to multiply it. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to do this to find the little pattern, to find the relationship between both, right? So each square needs to be multiplied by 4. That's basically it, right? If I do 4 times the first square, so this number 1 represents the first square, does that give me 4? Yeah, it does. If it gives me 4, then that means this rule is correct. Okay, just like this here, what I could have done is I could have multiplied 2 to the 1 or into the first term, but I won't complicate that. Okay, now I've got the pattern is multiplying by 4. How many squares do I have? Well, I have 2 squares. Does that give me 8? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully this is making sense. Okay, there is a relationship between the pattern, so the times 4, okay, the pattern in the number of matches, and relating that to the number of squares. Okay. So these check out. Okay. Now looking here, this is the solution, right? We've already done this. Okay. The pattern was multiplying 4. Yeah. I multiply 4 by the number of squares. Now, what if I wanted to construct 70 squares? How many matchsticks would I need? Well, if I have 70 squares, how many matchsticks? Well, I'm going to use the pattern timesing it by 4. So I'm going to go 4 times the number of squares, which is 70. And I'm going to put it into my calculator. Okay. That should give me 280. That means 70 squares is equal to 280 matchsticks. Now, the reason why I came up with this type of rule here, yeah, is because it makes it easier if the number of squares is a very large number, like 70 squares. Okay, now it says question A, write the relationships in words. Okay, to write it in words, well, I'm figuring out the total number of matchsticks. So that is going to be my end. So the total matchsticks is equal to, what's the rule? What's the pattern? Well, the rule was I had to multiply 4 to the number of squares. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to write down 4 times the number of squares. Okay. Now, I've written it in words. Now I need to write it in algebra using letters. Let's say the total number of matchsticks, I can write it as M. The letter M represented as M. And the number of squares, I can write it as S. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer it. So it says total number of matchsticks. Okay, I'm going to write down M equal to 4 times. 4 times, if I translate it, means 4 times number of squares, S. That's it. Okay. Now, I'm going to use this rule, M equals 4 times S, to find how many squares if a student has used 820 matchsticks. Okay. This is what I'm going to use my algebra skills, which you've already learned last term. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the formula. M equals 4 times S. Okay, M represents what? It represents matchsticks. So how many matchsticks does the student have? 820. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to substitute. Okay, M is going to go out. 820 is going to come in. Okay, equal me to 4 times. I need to find out how many squares. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave S here by itself. All right, if I want S to be by itself, what do I need to get rid of on this side here? Well, I need to get rid of the 4. How do I get rid of the 4? This is a multiplication sign, so I need to divide it by 4. I need to do the opposite. Multiplication, division is the opposite. Okay, divide this by 4. 4 divided by 4 gives me 1, so that leaves me out. I'm going to put in the calculator 820 divided by 4. That should give me 205. Okay, so that means that there are 205 squares. Okay, that's it. Okay, we're going to go through our last example. Okay, form a sequence of numbers by using each rule given. Okay, I'm going to go through only 2. I'll go A and C. Okay, so start with 5. So my first term, this is how your table of values should look like. First term, second term, third term, fourth term. Okay, is that your first number, your second number, your third number, your fourth number, basically. All right, so let's do this. I start off with my first number is going to be 5. Then I'm going to add 3 to it. Okay, that's what it said. That's the rule. 5 plus 3, right, gives me what? Gives me 8. So what I'm going to do is the following. 5 plus 3 equals me to 8. Now I'm going to use 8. 8 plus 3 equal me to 11. Yep. 11 plus 3 equals me to 14. That's how I'm doing it. Okay. How I'm using the rule and putting it into a table. Right, question C, it says start with 2. So I'm going to start off with 2. Multiply 3 and then add by 1. Okay. So let's do this. For the second number, I'm going to go using the previous number 2. I'm going to multiply it by 3 and I'm going to add it by 1. So 2 times 3 gives me 6. 6 plus 1 gives me 7. Okay, third term, 7 times 3 plus 1 gives me 7 times 3 gives me 21 plus 1 gives me 22. 22 times 3 plus 1. Okay, when it gets harder, just use your calculator. 22 times 3 gives me 66 plus 1, 67. That's it. That's the end of the lesson. Those are the questions that you are going to be going through. And yeah, but hope you guys have a good day and I'll see you soon. Bye.